Well, the sunchokes are got a lot of growth on them. They're probably about ready to transfer to somewhere else. Otherwise, they might get really root bound in there for all the tubers and roots. Probably about 2 foot plus high right now. Some of the longevity spinach is looking really good since I put them in pots. Nasturtiums are pushing out new growth every day. You know, they're kind of probably about 5 to 6 inches tall on this top one here. Pretty much every seed I think sprouted. Tons of papaya. Maybe possibly every seed is sprouted now from the first batch of papaya seeds. We got another type that probably hasn't started sprouting yet. And these took a little while to sprout. They didn't sprout like overnight or in 3 days or something. I got worried about them for a while. Probably ready to go in a more permanent place. You know, when I put them in a cup without drain holes in it, I knew that couldn't leave them in here forever. It's been raining a lot, so the roots are going to start rotting. Here's the other ones here. Got some here that are kind of stunted, and it may be because too much water. Might need to just go ahead and put these somewhere. These have drain in them. You know, I put 3 in each one of these longer pots. One of them sprouted here and then it died, so got 2 here and 3 here. The Tithonia Mexican sunflower. Possibly everyone sprouted, I don't know. There's a lot there. They're kind of slow growing, but I guess they will ramp up and get like 12 feet and all before, you know, a freeze or something hits them. So we'll keep letting these guys grow until they're big enough to pluck out and individually plant somewhere. The corn planter with a broken horn has spearmint in it. I put 3 in there, and they're already pushing new ones out from the roots. So got a lot of coffee, banana peels. It doesn't have a drain in it, so it keeps it nice and moist. Look at there. It is looking good. Those, or whatever they are starting to get some more mature leaf sets on them on the top. They're very thin and kind of fragile, so hopefully by the time they get some hardened, you know, they harden their stems and stuff and I can pluck them out, that they will be safe to do so. But it's possible they might just go so intertwined with their root systems, you know, they might just like be hard to get out once they're safe to get out. So we might have to pull them in clumps and just plant a clump. That's fine, we got so many of them. But yeah, that's probably like 7 inches tall, the tallest ones. We've been moving so many plant materials around. We got a lot of mushrooms just popping up everywhere. More mushrooms there, more over there. A boatload of mushrooms in here. More mushrooms on this log here. We haven't even really started to build a path through like wetlands on one yet. There's kind of like a path that we just walk through and kind of work on stuff so far, but we haven't like tried to, you know, physically build a path here yet. I mean, we got obstructions like this big giant tree. I did move this tree this way so we can kind of walk this way a little easier. And this might be part of some kind of hugel bed or something later. I don't know. The air is definitely filled with elderberry blooms. And it's not really because the more fragrant ones are blooming yet. It's just the quantity of these kind of low fragrance blooms, you know, and the wind just blowing them around. I mean, there are definitely some decent sized bloom heads on these guys, but if you put them up to your nose, they're not as fragrant as some of the other ones, which will probably be blooming in the coming months. I think we have our first malanga sprout. See that little red thing there? Starting to sprout up. And I've been looking for like a couple weeks for signs of these guys sprouting. There's the first sign. We got some wild onion flower, aka wild garlic flowers, just in case anybody wanted to see what the flowers actually look like. Again, this is one of the elderberries. It probably has 100 bloom heads on it already. This is one we just pretty much leave unpruned. It's just Hasn't been like something significant here, but I don't know. It just looks like it's got way more blooms this year than it has had before. So you can see the Saijo or Saijo persimmon, probably 12 to 14 feet in the air at the top, is just full of fruit. And even though these guys are like small fruits, you know, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches, you can get such a large quantity out of a tree like this once it's producing well that you can't even eat them all. So you probably could like freeze the pulp or something for breads and all that good stuff, maybe pudding. But yeah. And these guys, you know, pretty much I think all the Asian persimmons are self-fertile. So you can have one tree and it can be happy all by itself. You got a big frog there of some sort. Was it an aquatic frog or is it a tree frog that jumped in there? He's like trying to get out. I don't know where he went. More elderberries in bloom here. This guy's probably 14, 15 foot. It's usually full of berries and blooms each year. I believe this is a hybrid based on, you know, a number of factors, but it's one that wasn't really like our best, you know, so I picked elderberries from it last year for a couple weeks, but it was just normal elderberries. It's not, see, the bloom heads aren't super big on them. They're like, you know, 5 to 7 inches. Some of them a little bit smaller. This elderberry here was the one that I actually experimentally just added fertilizer to it, and it was big already. And in my observation so far, I would say it didn't really do anything for it. It looks like it's going to have a pretty small bloom head right there. And it goes back in focus. Growth rate really hasn't changed, it doesn't look like. But that could be because this is a root sucker and it could have 50 or 100 feet of roots that are all sucking in that fertilizer. So in a more controlled environment or experiment, you'd probably go around here, take the roots off, you know, cut them in a circular area to cut off the supply of everything else and then refertilize just this guy here. Well, it was, you know, just neat to give it some fertilizer and see if anything changed, but you would probably have to fertilize a whole field of them, you know, based on, you know, if there's 50 trees attached to one, you give it, you know, spread out the fertilizer, you know, and put enough fertilizer for 50 trees and not 1 or 2 trees, you know. The giant Fuyu persimmon again. This is usually when, you know, it's full of fruits. This is usually like the go-to cultivar, because this is what's one of the most common cultivars you found in like the big box nurseries, you know, Lowe's, Home Depot, maybe Walmart occasionally. You can eat it hard or soft, which is considered a plus for many. So you can eat it like an apple or anywhere between an apple and, you know, a pudding, you know, stage. People that really love persimmons usually like it soft and pudding. People that don't like persimmons prefer it probably hard, not quite as sweet, not quite as flavorful. So who are you? Are you a soft stage persimmon eater, you know, or are you a hard stage persimmon eater? Looks like we're probably only going to get one prickly pear of fruit this year. It's fixing to flower soon. I guess because everything goats tore some of this up in the past, and then it fell down and broke, and you know, it's kind of just rerooting everywhere. So, but you know, maybe in 10 years from now we'll have like hundreds of them, twisted and tangled prickly pear or whatever. Hasn't really shown any signs of new growth yet, but it's still kind of green, and maybe that'll produce a bunch of prickly pears. And as old as this desert green one is, you know, which just kind of started rerooting, you know, low in the ground there, maybe that guy will eventually produce some prickly pears. And this other thornless one, which I don't know what cultivar it is, maybe this guy will produce some prickly pears. There's, you know, if you've been following my updates and videos through, you know, since I've been doing these, you'll see that I probably talked about doing more prickly pear cactuses in this little sandy high spot. A lot of these guys are from the West Coast, some are from Argentina, some of them may be from Texas, Arizona, so there's no guarantee that they'll even survive in this high humidity. The desert green gets wet feet and it just melts and dies. In this area, it survived. It's not super high yet, but maybe one day it'll just take off, and we'll see. So we'll just stop this video with looking at the pecan tree, the Elliott, I believe. Yep, Elliott pecan. It's definitely budded out. Just hope it does well here. I think this is my second attempt to do a grafted pecan tree, even though seedlings come up everywhere. It just wasn't happy in the spot I had it before, and it died down and came up from the graft a few times, just lower and lower, until it just died. So this guy, let's just hope for the best. I mean, we have pecans blooming everywhere right now. They're all back in that field. There are pecans that direction, probably in 4 or 5 different directions here, even though we got this really big density of, you know, trees that kind of would block some of the pollen. But in that direction we don't. There's 2 right there, you know, within about 80 or 100 feet of this guy, and there's one probably 150 to 200 feet that angle. There's another one across the street, you know, another 40 feet or less. Then there are a few in the park. There's actually a few over there too. So, I mean, there's probably anywhere between 8 and 15 within about 1,000 feet from here. So that's a good thing. So you're going to get pollination from all directions. So let's hope we get at least this one superior or improved cultivar to survive here, because, you know, we have our largest tree just does not do well. It you know, blows pollen everywhere. There are pollinators all around it. It does not produce more than a handful of pecans every year. So if this guy does well, hopefully it'll produce, you know, well for us. And when I'm dead and gone, hopefully my kids and grandkids will reap the bounties.